Hello and welcome to Uzreport World News, and my name is Bahram Gafarov. The aviation authorities of Uzbekistan are in favor of the soonest resumption of the air traffic in the CIS. This was announced on December 18 by Shavkat Mirziyoyev as a summit of the heads of the CIS states.
We stand for the earliest possible resumption of air traffic on a reciprocal basis in compliance with all sanitary requirements. This will contribute to the restoration of business, humanitarian and tourist exchange, said Mirziyoyev. He also spoke about the problems of migration, noting that currently there is an acute issue of social and legal protection of citizens of CIS states who are engaged in labor activities. In our opinion, the time has come to create a single mechanism for the mutual recognition of documents of labor migrations. At the same time, it's necessary to reasonably combine and take into account the interests of both the state and business and the workers themselves, said the president. He proposed to develop and adopt a program of cooperation on labor migration issues.
Uzbekistan has received $1.1 billion in net foreign direct investment in the first 9 months of 2020 against the backdrop of the crisis caused to the global economy by the coronavirus pandemic. Net foreign investment plummeted by around twice, while the volume of reinvestments by foreign investors remained almost at the same level of 2019. The total volumes of foreign assets and external liabilities of Uzbekistan in the reporting period amounted to $62.5 billion and $40.2 billion respectively. The net international investment position of the country jumped by $2.3 billion, amounting to $22.3 billion as of October 1st. Legislators at Oli Majlis voted to assign Uzbek Usmanov as Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Uzbekistan to the Islamic Republic of Pakistan at the 10th plenary session of Senate. The newly appointed envoy worked as the head of the television and radio department of the National Television and Radio Company. Uzbek Usmanov started career as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 1997 as First Secretary of the Consular Department. Since then, he has held various positions in diplomatic missions as Ambassador of Uzbekistan to Pakistan, Egypt and Jordan. A New Year tree has been set up at the Istiklal Street in Tashkent city centre. The City Hall reported this year the festivities will comply with COVID-19 safety standards and last until January the 10th. The festivities will soon be open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. The City Hall added that residents and guests of Uzbekistan's capital will be able to watch live concerts and circus performances on a large screen display. In addition, children's playgrounds are open to kids and their families. Uzbekistan's foreign trade in goods topped $32.9 billion in January and November 2020, which is less by 12.9% to the same period last year. According to the State Statistics Committee, the exports stood at $14.1 billion, or down by 10.5%, and imports at $18.7 billion, or down by 14.7%. A trade deficit of $4.5 billion was recorded. Of the 20 largest foreign trade partners, the trade surplus was kept with Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan and Iran. Tashkent Water Supply and Sewerage Service Company posted on a website the draft that proposes increasing the current tariffs. Media outlets, journalists and bloggers convened at a press conference organized by the city administration to clarify this matter.
Now, the state-owned supplier wants to charge regular household and public entities 500 soms per 1 cubic meter and 350 soms for sewage services. Private companies will have to pay 1,500 and 820 soms for water and sewage service respectively. The company says it should help reduce accounts payable, repay foreign loans and eliminate faults in networks and facilities. If we don't raise the tariffs now, we may face irreversible catastrophic consequences. The growth in Uzbekistan's population may be to blame. Over 500 kilometers of tubes are pending to be replaced. However, with the current charge, we can only cover 20 kilometers of pipeline. Currently, there are 7 main water supply facilities in Tashkent, which were built in the 60s. The capital is interconnected with 3,700 kilometers long drinking water pipes. 70% of network's tubes are worn out. On average, 50 to 60 kilometers of pipes are changed annually. In 2019, over 10,000 pipe failures were recorded and the figure reached 11,000 just in 9 months of 2020. The increase in the number of such accidents becomes the main water waste factor.
Uzbekistan will reduce the cost of coronavirus tests for Uzbek students returning from abroad, citing the decision of the Special Republican Commission. This decision was made on the basis of a large number of requests from students and their parents. The price of testing for coronavirus for Uzbek students, as an exception, should not exceed $5. During testing, it will be necessary to present a passport and a document confirming study at a foreign university, the decision of the Special Commission says. Currently, testing for coronavirus in Uzbekistan costs about $20. In accordance with the court decision of October 30, 2020, the appeal filed by the Anti-Monopoly Committee in Uzauto Motors case was not satisfied, the press service of the Supreme Court writes. The Board of the Appeals, having heard the explanations of the parties and the opinions of prosecutor, made a decision based on the results of the consideration of the case. The Anti-Monopoly Committee was ordered to pay the state duty to Uzauto Motors joint stock company at around $200. The World Bank's Board of Executive Directors approved the provision of $500 million in financing to Uzbekistan under the Development Policy Operation. Its goal is to facilitate the implementation of further socio-economic reforms in a transparent and inclusive manner.
As part of this operation, the government was supported in mitigating the negative socio-economic consequences of the coronavirus pandemic, as well as in implementing the reforms outlined in the Uzbekistan Development Action Strategy 2017-2021. Along with the implementation of the anti-crisis program over the past year, the government has also implemented several important reforms designed to accelerate the country's transition to an open, competitive and inclusive economy. The main reforms carried out by the government with the assistance of the DPO include transformation of the registration system into an effective mechanism for electronic registration of citizens at the place of residence, abolition of the practice of establishing by the state a plan for the production of cotton and its obligatory sale, reduction of subsidized lending to state enterprises by state banks, etc.
A car bomb targeting an Afghan lawmaker killed at least 9 people in Kabul on Sunday, officials said. No one has yet claimed responsibility for the blast, which lawmaker Khan Mohammed Wardak was reported to have survived. But it comes amid a sharp rise in violence in recent weeks as the Afghan government and Taliban hold talks to find an end to the country's almost 20-year-long war. Interior Minister Masood Andarabi said Wardak had survived the blast, but was among 20, including women and children, who were injured. It's unclear if the bomb was in a vehicle parked along the lawmaker's route or driven by the bomber. Separate bombings were also reported on Sunday in several other provinces, in which civilians and members of the security forces were killed. On Friday, a suspected rickshaw bomb killed at least 15 civilians, including 11 children, in the central Ghazni province.
Several European countries have shut their borders to Britain due to concerns over a new, rapidly spreading coronavirus strain. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced on Saturday that the new virus strain had led to spiralling infection numbers. That prompted Belgium to announce that it was closing its borders to trains and planes coming from the UK, and the Netherlands to suspend flights. Italy says it's planning a similar ban, and a German health ministry official said restrictions would be imposed on flights from Britain and South Africa, which has also detected a new coronavirus strain. Austria is also reportedly planning to ban flights. Spain said, in light of the moves by other countries, it was asking the European Commission and European Council for a coordinated response. Otherwise, it would act unilaterally to defend its interests and citizens. On Saturday, Johnson imposed a new Tier 4 level of tougher restrictions on more than 16 million people in England and abruptly abandoned plans to allow 3 households to mix indoors over the festive period, less than a week before Christmas. Immediately after the announcement, there was a dash to train stations and people tried to travel home before restrictions came into force. On Sunday, the city was eerily quiet. Places like Covent Garden, normally heaving with visitors and shoppers, left empty. Those who could be found in the streets of London, like Brad Nichols, expressed the view that it was the right decision, but that the government had left it too late.
Yeah, I'm pretty upset about it. I think the lack of planning and the lack of ability to tell people that this was going to happen in advance of when it did caused a lot of havoc and confusion.
Health Minister Matt Hancock said the decision to impose the restrictions had been taken speedily, and he condemned crowding at train stations as irresponsible. Australia's most populous city, Sydney, became further isolated from the rest of the country on Sunday, with every one of the country's states and territories imposing travel restrictions on Sydney residents. That's after an outbreak of coronavirus cases in the New South Wales capital broke a 2-week run of zero community transmission. 30 new cases were reported on Sunday, bringing the cluster infections to around 70. Around 250,000 people in Sydney's Northern Beach suburbs, where the outbreak occurred, have been put into a strict lockdown until Christmas Eve. At a time when many people will be planning to travel, the Australian Capital Territory sent a stern "do not come to us" message to Sydney, and warned that residents would be quarantined for 14 days if they arrived. And this was the message from Victoria's Premier, Daniel Andrews.
I'm not going to wait around while they add to their rules. We are going to protect what we have built, and that is why the border will be closed from midnight tonight. There's an extra 24 hours for returning Victorians, but they will have to go into quarantine regardless. It'll simply be at home rather than in a hotel.
Both Victoria and Queensland have banned people from Sydney arriving as of Monday, prompting some to rush to Sydney's airports.
I'm in should I go today, should I go in a couple of days? And yeah, I just made the last minute decision to come today.
South Australia State imposed a 14-day quarantine for Sydney arrivals on Sunday and banned travellers from affected suburbs. Tasmania took a similar step on Saturday, while Western Australia State imposed a hard border closure.
Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said Sunday evening that a deal had finally been reached on a $900 billion package to provide the first new aid in months to an economy hammered by the coronavirus pandemic.
Moments ago, in consultation with our committees, the 4 leaders of the Senate and the House finalized an agreement. There will be another major rescue package for the American people. As our citizens continue battling this coronavirus this holiday season, they will not be fighting alone.
Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said the package should have enough support to pass both chambers of Congress. The package would be the second largest economic stimulus in U.S. history, following the $2.3 trillion aid package passed in March. The new package would give $600 direct payments to individuals, boost unemployment payments by $300 a week, and give hundreds of billions of dollars in additional aid to small businesses. Sources said it would also provide $25 billion for rental assistance. The bill leaves out 2 of the most contentious elements in the negotiations: legal protections for businesses from coronavirus lawsuits, which had been sought by Republicans, and the substantial aid for state and local governments sought by Democrats. Sources briefed on the matter told Reuters on Sunday the deal was also expected to grant U.S. airlines $15 billion in new payroll assistance that will allow them to return more than 32,000 furloughed workers to their payrolls through March 31st. The Democratic-led House of Representatives will likely vote on the package on Monday, with the Republican-controlled Senate to follow.
Facebook removed anti-coronavirus vaccine posts in Israel, according to the country's justice ministry, which said on Sunday that at its request, the social media website took down 4 groups that had disseminated texts, photographs, and videos with what the government called deliberately mendacious content designed to mislead about coronavirus vaccines. The ministry said in a statement that such fake news included arguments that vaccines would be used to plant government tracking chips in recipients' bodies, to poison them and thus cull the population, or to subject them to medical experimentation. A Facebook spokesperson confirmed that 4 Hebrew language groups had been taken down as part of the company's policy against spreading misinformation regarding the vaccines. Israeli officials say the country has enough vaccines on order by year's end to protect the most vulnerable 20% of the population and then lift some coronavirus restrictions. But they worry that turnout might be dampened if people get false information about the inoculations. Israel began administering vaccines to medical staff on Sunday. At a medical center in Tel Aviv, dozens of doctors and nurses danced as they prepared to receive their injections. Next in line are elderly Israelis or those in high-risk groups. The wider adult population is slated to get shots in early 2021. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Saturday became the first person to be vaccinated in Israel. Opinion polls show some 2/3 of the public in the country want to follow suit.
An advisory panel for the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Sunday recommended that frontline essential workers and people aged 75 and older should be next in line to receive a COVID-19 vaccine. Frontline workers account for 30 million people in the United States, including first responders, teachers, those who work in food and agriculture, manufacturing, the U.S. Postal Service, public transit, and grocery store workers. The panel voted 13-1 in favor of the move. In all, that would bring the total number of people eligible to receive the vaccine in the next round to 49 million. The ensuing round of about 57 million non-frontline workers are expected to include those in media, finance, energy, IT and communication industries, people between 65 and 74, and those aged between 16 and 64 with high-risk conditions.
So far, these were the latest news for today. Goodbye, take care.